My brothers and sisters, spiritual gifts. Spiritual gifts are divine deposits from the Ruach HaKodesh in the lives of those he regenerates to new life in Yahusha HaMashiach for use in your mission. They most often differ from natural abilities or tendencies, which mean you must give attention to understand, develop, and prayerfully use them to edify others, and in so doing, glorify Yahuah. Now, there are spiritual gift evaluation tests you can get to help you identify your spiritual gifts. But these are only suggestions you must prayerfully validate the results of. I would warn that many of these evaluations suggest there are more than 20 different spiritual gifts, which I do not concur with. My view is that there are 7 predominant spiritual gifts: administration, exhortation, giving, mercy, ministry or service, prophecy, teaching. Please note that while the Ruach HaKodesh may give only one gift to an individual, he more often gives more than one, and even allows some to use all of the above on different mission assignments. Knowing when and how to use any or all of these requires discernment on your part. Many of the spiritual gift evaluations classify manifestations of spiritual gifts as actual spiritual gifts, but I would make a distinction. No two believers have identical mixes of any of these, so it is impractical to compare your spiritual gifting with that of anyone else. Any comparison you make should be against Yahusha HaMashiach as your standard. For scriptural support, I draw your attention to a parable Yahusha HaMashiach gave. He said, "Therefore, a certain nobleman went into a far country to receive for himself a kingdom and to return. And he called his 10 servants and delivered them 10 pounds and said unto them, Occupy till I come. But his citizens hated him and sent a message after him, saying, We will not have this man to reign over us. And it came to pass that when he was returned, having received the kingdom, then he commanded these servants to be called unto him, to whom he had given the money, that he might know how much every man had gained by trading. Then came the first, saying, King, thy pound hath gained 10 pounds. And he said unto him, Well, thou good servant, because thou hast been faithful in a very little, have thou authority over 10 cities. And the second came, saying, King, thy pound hath gained 5 pounds. And he said likewise to him, Be thou also over 5 cities. And another came, saying, King, behold, here is thy pound, which I have kept laid up in a napkin. For I feared thee, because thou art an austere man. Thou takest up that thou layest not down, and reapest that thou didst not sow. And he saith unto him, Out of thine own mouth will I judge thee, thou wicked servant. Thou knewest that I was an austere man, taking up that I laid not down, and reaping that I did not sow. Wherefore then gavest not thou my money into the bank, that at my coming I might have required mine own with usury? And he said unto them that stood by, Take from him the pound, and give it to him that hath 10 pounds. And they said unto him, King, he hath 10 pounds. For I say unto you, that unto every one which hath shall be given, and from him that hath not, even that he hath, shall be taken away from him. But those mine enemies, which would not that I should reign over them, bring hither, and slay them before me. Luke 19:12-27. We must be careful not to overinterpret any parable. And while in this text, the first two servants knew their rate of return on the master's money, there is no way we know on this side of eternity what our return rate is. But there are essential truths we glean from the parable of the pounds. The traveling master we can understand to be Yahusha, who gave each of his servants equal sums of money, which they were to invest for his benefit in his absence, with the expectation that the master would require them to account for their action in his absence when he returned. The parable gives examples of three servants. The first had a 10-to-1 return on the master's money. The second had a 5-to-1 return, but the third failed to invest the master's money at all, having nothing to show for his effort or lack thereof. The master commended the first two for their effort, but condemned the third for his lethargy and indifference. What I find interesting about their rewards that they would rule over the number of cities equivalent to their return on the master's investment. In preparation for this event, Yahusha HaMashiach commands the believer, "Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal." Matthew 6:19-20. Hope in Americanized English conveys an uncertainty. I hope it doesn't rain today, whereas New Testament hope conveys no such ambiguity, as it rests on Yahusha's faithfulness, which is by scriptural definition definite, but not yet realized. Hebrews 10:23. Therefore, the believer moves through the struggles of life confident he or she will share in the very glory of Yahuah. Romans 8:29-30, John 17:22, 2 Corinthians 3:18, Philippians 3:20-21, and 1 John 3:1-2. In addition, the Apostle Paul tells you why. It is a faithful saying, for if we be unalived with him, we shall also live with him. If we suffer, we shall also reign with him. If we deny him, he also will deny us. If we believe not, yet he abideth faithful. He cannot deny himself. 2 Timothy 2:11-13. The Jews of Yahusha's incarnation believed their Messiah would come twice. First as the Messiah ben Joseph, and secondly as the Messiah ben David. Rabbinic tradition developed the idea of Joseph as a Messiah from Obadiah 1:18. While I cannot explain or justify it, this is what the record says. The rabbinic tradition of Messiah ben David is derived from the Davidic covenant, 2 Samuel 7:8-15, which forms the basis for the future earthly kingdom of Yahushua HaMashiach, the Messiah. The Jews alive during Yahusha's incarnation were not wanting anything like Joseph, but were expecting Yahusha to defeat the Romans and reestablish the Davidic kingdom. And they maintained this expectation until Yahusha ascended back to heaven. When they therefore were come together, they asked of him, saying, "King, wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel?" Acts 1:6. Those with any knowledge of the 8 Old Testament covenants and who put any stock in the Yahuah's redemptive plan are still anticipating that event in our priorities. How are you doing in your preparation for Yahusha's return? Shalom.